It's been a while since I've talked about anything that deserved attention but didn't get it enough. And well, my last video was addressing a very particular person who was definitely not going to engage in dialogue back. I'm surprised to say that this video is actually directed at Danny Duchamp, who is a guy that I like. I like Danny. I think he's very honest. He's a little too right-wing on a few subjects. For instance, he's against immigration entirely. He wants to shut down all immigration and not take in any refugees and in any Western country, which I don't agree with, but I generally like his opinions. I like how thoughtful he is, and I really admire his ability to just speak unedited. That's a skill I definitely don't have. Obviously, this is a very sensitive topic, and I regret that it just washed away from the mainstream media as quickly as it did, because it is a problem. It is something that has happened before, and I, for one, think it deserves more attention. But let's get in the video.
Hi, welcome to my show.
Holy shit, dude. Holy fucking shit. What did you do? Why? Why did you decide that not looking like a majestic lion would be a better choice? Fuck off, Danny.
My name's Danny Duchamp, and I want to have a quick chat with you guys today about the shootings over in Quebec.
I'm gonna skip him talking about the events. I'm sure everybody knows about it by now. Let's get into the part of the video with which I have a problem.
Now, one of the most common pieces of reasoning that I've heard since the shooting went down is that this is, in part at least, a result of the anti-Islamic rhetoric that's been gaining traction over the last year or two. We've all been saying that Islamic beliefs are evil and violent and will result in harm. And as a result of that, the claim goes, there has been license given.
License given. Please keep that in mind.
To people who want to commit violence against Muslims. And you know what? That is entirely valid.
Okay, Danny, this awkward pause really works if you're trying to get people to react to a joke you're about to make. Haha, just kidding. But it just comes off as extremely condescending if you're just gonna double down on the very wrong thing you just said.
What? Oh, I'm sorry, do beliefs only result in action when it's convenient for us?
That's not what you said, Danny. I mean, this guy was obviously motivated by the belief that Islam is bad, but that does not mean he's been given license to exercise violence. Seriously, dude, take a step back and listen to what you said again. Because we said Islam is evil, we are thus giving license for violence to be committed against those who practice it. That's the claim that you just said is entirely valid. Of course not.
The entire criticism of Islam, and the reason people are so strongly against it, is because it is a set of abhorrent beliefs, which result in abhorrent actions. And it doesn't matter where the belief comes from.
Danny, I honestly don't know where you're getting this from. Where the belief comes from is all that matters. How are you going to convince someone their beliefs are wrong if you don't know why they believe what they believe in the first place? This is why you combat Islam. For example, consider the following belief. Well, I think gays should be disavowed from society. How do you tackle this? Unless you know why they hold that belief, you wouldn't know how to address it. If they think gays are bad because they're from the alt-right, your argument would be X. If they're Muslim, it would be Y. Those two groups have different reasons for disliking gays, and therefore need to be convinced that gays aren't bad on different fronts. And this is only made possible by knowing why they hold the opinion they do, even if it is the same opinion.
I don't understand why there are so many people now denying this, saying, like, no, this guy, it has nothing to do with the rising anti-Islamic sentiment. Of course it does.
Well, Danny, yes, it has something to do with the rhetoric that's being pushed, or anti-Islamic sentiment, as you call it. But what you're doing right now is just a variation of the Reza Aslan argument, where he says,
there are marauding Buddhist monks in Myanmar slaughtering women and children.
yeah, no shit. The obvious difference here is that although those monks are ideologically aligned with Buddhism, they're having to do mental gymnastics to reconcile their justification for political violence with the ideology that guides their way of life, since Buddhism doesn't call for violence directly. I mean, Reza was making this point in reverse to yours, which is to say, he was trying to prove that no ideology is violent, whereas what you seem to be validating here is that every ideology can be violent, which is just not true. Some ideologies are violent, and some violent people belong to non-violent ideologies. If an ideology calls for violence, it will result in violence. But that does not mean that an ideology that doesn't call for violence will not have violent adherents. It's that simple.
Does this mean I'm going to stop spreading that anti-Islamic sentiment? No, it does not. Because it's true. The anti-Islamic beliefs are true. It is true that Islam is evil and violent and fucked up and should not exist.
So this is a part of the video where Danny starts to really make the point that he should have been making from the beginning. Now he's hitting the nail on the head. But if you think we should be pedantic enough to include a footnote on every single piece of criticism of Islam that reads, oh, by the way, don't go around committing mass murder, okay? Then we'll just have to disagree on that. Otherwise, we can simply lament the tragic deaths of these people and continue waging this war of ideas. So really, while I completely agree with the second part of this video, I have no idea why you're trying to validate this claim. It's absolutely counterproductive, and it's trying to capitalize on horrible tragedies to score political points or just to bolster one's narrative. It's the claim that ideologues like this are making in order to make the ages-old false equivalence that Islam is just as bad as any other ideology, really. At this point, they're just saying that Trumpism or radical whiteness is the same thing as Islam. But at this point, I've said what I had to say on this video, and the rest of it is pretty good. Danny basically just points out why it's wrong to equate the anti-something belief with the desire to commit violence against that something, or believers in that something. And like Danny, I am very much an anti-Islam person, which is, I guess, what you'd call us, technically. However, neither of us condones violence against Muslims, obviously. Unless they're running at you and screaming Allahu Akbar, then you have good reason to believe that violence is the only answer.